I lied to a billionaire about who I was. But he fell in love with the real me. I used to believe rich people lived in a completely different universe from the rest of us. A universe where coffee cost $20, people wore sunglasses indoors, and billionaires apparently got engaged to women they had never even met properly. Then one terrible Thursday night, I somehow got dragged into that universe. And everything in my life changed. Including me. It started at exactly 11:47 p.m., while I was sitting on the floor of my tiny apartment eating instant noodles straight from the pot because I was too tired to wash a bowl. Rain hammered against my window while my landlord's final warning letter sat unopened on the table beside me. My bakery dream was dying slowly. My bills were piling up. And my bank account balance was so embarrassing I had stopped checking it entirely. So when my phone rang, I almost ignored it. Until I saw the caller ID. Samantha Clark. I stared at the screen for a full 5 seconds before answering. Because whenever Samantha called, chaos followed. "Hello," I said cautiously. "Olivia," she gasped dramatically. "I need you to save my life." I closed my eyes immediately. There it was. The chaos. What happened this time? It's complicated. That sentence alone already exhausted me. No, listen first. I leaned back against my couch with a sigh. Samantha had been my best friend since college, though we were complete opposites. I worked 3 jobs and budgeted grocery money down to the cent. Samantha bought designer heels because she liked the color. She lived fast, impulsively, and emotionally. I lived carefully. Still, somehow, our friendship had survived. "Barely. Talk," I said. She inhaled dramatically. "I may have accidentally agreed to marry a billionaire." Silence. Then I burst into laughter. Real laughter. The kind that made my stomach hurt. "Oh my God," I wheezed. "You're serious?" "Yes. You accidentally got engaged." "It sounds bad when you say it like that. How else should I say it?" Samantha groaned loudly into the phone. "Okay, fine. Remember Damien Sinclair?" I nearly choked. Damien Sinclair. Even I knew that name. Everybody did. Young billionaire CEO. Owner of Sinclair Holdings. The internet called him the Ice King because he apparently never smiled and had rejected multiple interviews from major magazines. There were entire TikTok compilations dedicated to videos of him walking into buildings looking emotionally unavailable. Women online acted completely insane over him. "How do you know Damien Sinclair?" I asked slowly. "Because he's my fiancé." I sat upright. "You're joking." I wish I was. I rubbed my forehead. "No, seriously. Why would a billionaire want an arranged engagement in 2026? Rich people are weird, Olivia. Focus." I already hated where this conversation was going. "What exactly do you need from me?" Samantha became suspiciously quiet. And that was when I knew my life was about to get worse. "Well, no. You don't even know what I'm asking yet. I can feel it spiritually." She spoke quickly before I could stop her. "I need you to pretend to be me for one weekend." I froze. "What? It's only for 3 days." "Absolutely not. Please. No. Olivia, my father's company is collapsing." I paused. Her voice cracked slightly. That part sounded real. "The Sinclair merger is the only thing keeping us afloat," she continued quietly. "If their family thinks I'm backing out, everything falls apart." I swallowed hard. "Then go." "I can't." "Why not?" Silence. Then she muttered. "I flew to Greece with my ex-boyfriend." I stared at my ceiling in disbelief. Of course she did. "Sam." "I know. No, I genuinely don't think you do. Please," she begged. "Damien's never met me properly in person. Most of our communication has been through family meetings and video calls. You just need to survive one engagement weekend." I laughed nervously. "You've completely lost your mind. You're the only person I trust." That makes this worse. Then she said the sentence that ruined my self-control. "I'll pay off all your debts." My heart stopped. "What?" "And help fund your bakery." That hit me straight in the chest. Because my bakery was the one dream I had never let go of. Even when life got hard. Even when everyone told me it wasn't realistic. Even when I spent nights crying over unpaid bills. I still wanted it. More than anything. And Samantha knew that. "I hate you," I whispered weakly. "You'll do it." "No. Olivia." "How much money?" That was how I ended up standing in front of a private jet less than 24 hours later, wondering where exactly my survival instincts had gone. Everything felt unreal. The jet. The luxury luggage. The flight attendants. The fact that somebody had handed me sparkling water with actual lemon slices in it. Rich people really lived differently. I was trying not to panic when I stepped onto the plane and saw him for the first time. Damien Sinclair. And unfortunately, the internet had not exaggerated. He was painfully attractive. Tall. Sharp jawline. Dark hair slightly messy like he'd been running his hands through it. Grey eyes so intense they should have come with a warning label. And somehow he looked expensive. Not just rich. Expensive. Like his watch alone probably cost more than my apartment building. He looked up from his laptop briefly. Our eyes met. And my stomach immediately dropped. Because he frowned. He knows. Oh my God, he knows. I almost turned around right there. But then Damien stood slowly and walked toward me. My heartbeat became violent. He stopped directly in front of me before taking my hand gently. Finally, he said smoothly. Nice meeting you properly, Samantha. The relief nearly made me dizzy. He didn't know. Which honestly should have made me feel better. Instead, somehow, I felt worse. Because lying to him suddenly felt very personal. Nice to meet you too, I managed awkwardly. His eyes stayed on mine for a second too long. Then something strange happened. His expression softened slightly. Not fully. Just enough to make my heart do something incredibly stupid. And that was the exact moment my problems truly began. Because Damien Sinclair was not supposed to look at me like that. The Sinclair estate looked less like a house and more like the kind of place people took wedding photos in. Massive chandeliers. Marble floors. Gardens bigger than public parks. I felt underdressed emotionally. The entire time, I kept waiting for someone to expose me. But nobody did. Instead, everyone treated me like I belonged there. Which somehow made me even more uncomfortable. That evening, Damien and I attended a family dinner together. And it was horrifying. His family was elegant in the terrifying way only billionaire families could be. Everyone spoke calmly. Perfectly. Like they had media training since birth. Meanwhile, I nearly knocked over a water glass 3 separate times. Then Damien's grandmother smiled at me warmly and asked, So, Samantha, how exactly did you and Damien fall in love? I nearly died immediately. I looked at Damien desperately for help. But that man sat there calmly sipping wine like my suffering entertained him. Traitor. We just connected naturally, I said nervously. His grandmother smiled. Through what? I panicked. My eyes landed on the bookshelf nearby. Books, I blurted. Damien raised an eyebrow. You hate reading. Right. Because Samantha definitely hated books. I recovered quickly. Audiobooks, I corrected. Silence. Then suddenly, Damien laughed. Not loudly. Just softly. But the entire table froze. Apparently Damien Sinclair never laughed. Ever. His grandmother looked delighted. Oh, she said happily. I already adore her. Meanwhile I sat there wondering how much prison time identity theft carried. But the strangest part wasn't the lying. It wasn't the mansion. It wasn't even pretending to be engaged to a billionaire. The strangest part was Damien himself. Because the more time I spent around him, the less cold he became. At least with me. He noticed little things. The way I picked strawberries over chocolate desserts. The fact that I hated loud parties. How I got nervous in crowded rooms. And somehow, without making it obvious, he always adjusted things to make me comfortable. At first I told myself it meant nothing. Then one night, I caught him staring at me during dinner. Not casually. Not politely. Intensely. Like he was trying to solve me. And suddenly I couldn't breathe properly. That terrified me more than the lying. Because I was starting to forget this wasn't real. One evening during a charity gala, I escaped onto the balcony to calm down. The ballroom inside glittered with diamonds and champagne and wealthy people discussing things I didn't understand. I hated every second of it. You disappear often. Damien's voice startled me. He stepped onto the balcony beside me, hands tucked into his pockets. I'm not really a party person, I admitted. I noticed. There was a pause. Then he looked at me carefully. You've changed. My heart skipped. What do you mean? You seem different lately. That was because I wasn't Samantha. Guilt hit me so hard I looked away instantly. Damien stepped closer. Can I ask you something? I nodded nervously. When this arrangement started, he said slowly, did you ever think this could become real? The world stopped. Because the terrifying thing was, I had started imagining impossible things. Morning coffees together. Real dates. Real feelings. A real future. Which was ridiculous because none of this belonged to me. Before I could answer, a familiar voice interrupted. There you are. I turned. And nearly fainted. Samantha. Standing there in a silver dress looking tanned, beautiful, and very much back from Greece. Oh no. Oh no. Damien looked between us slowly. Confusion darkened his face. You know each other, he asked carefully. My stomach dropped. And the moment Damien looked between both of us, I knew everything was about to explode. The silence between the three of us felt deadly, Samantha smiled nervously while Damien's eyes moved slowly between us. I could literally see the moment his brain started connecting everything. The similar height. The different personality. The awkward answers. The fact that I had no idea how his fiancée took her coffee. Oh God. His expression hardened instantly. What's going on? Nobody answered. Samantha finally laughed weakly. Okay, before you get mad. Before I get mad. Damien repeated dangerously. I had never heard his voice sound like that before. Cold. Sharp. Controlled anger. And somehow that made it worse. I stepped forward quickly. This is my fault. Samantha looked relieved immediately. Traitor. Damien's eyes landed on me. Who are you? My throat tightened. Olivia Bennett. The disappointment that crossed his face hurt more than anger ever could. Not because he looked furious. Because he looked hurt. And somehow I hated that more. You lied to me, he said quietly. I know. 4 days. I know. His jaw clenched. Why? I looked down at my hands. Because suddenly the truth sounded pathetic. Because I needed money. Because I was desperate. Because I wanted my dream badly enough to make stupid decisions. Samantha told me her family's company would collapse if I didn't help, I admitted softly. She promised it would only be for 1 weekend. Damien laughed once. But there was no humor in it. So this entire engagement was a performance. No, Samantha interrupted quickly. The engagement itself is real. I just disappeared to Greece with your ex. Damien finished coldly. Samantha winced. I honestly wanted the floor to open and swallow me whole. Damien looked back at me slowly. And you agreed to impersonate my fiancé. When he said it out loud, it sounded even worse. I'm sorry. Silence filled the room. Then Damien did something unexpected. He looked directly at Samantha. Leave. What? Now. But. Now, Samantha. She jumped slightly before quickly grabbing her purse and escaping the balcony. Which left me alone with him. Very alone. The music from inside the ballroom sounded distant now. Muted. My heartbeat was so loud I could barely think. Damien stared at me for a long moment before speaking again. The worst part, he said quietly, is that I actually started liking you. My chest tightened painfully. Because I had started liking him too. Too much. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. Tears burned behind my eyes instantly. I know. He looked away briefly before inhaling slowly. You should leave tomorrow morning. The way he said it made my heart crack a little. Not angry. Not dramatic. Just disappointed. And somehow that destroyed me. I barely slept that night. Every moment with Damien replayed in my head over and over again. The balcony conversations. The way he secretly smiled at me sometimes. How gentle he became whenever he thought I was nervous. None of it had been fake to me. And that was the problem. Because somewhere along the way, I had fallen for him. Actually fallen. By morning, my chest physically hurt. I packed my things quietly and asked one of the drivers to take me to the airport. I hoped Damien wouldn't come downstairs. Because I didn't think I could survive seeing him again. But as I reached the front entrance, leaving without saying goodbye, I froze immediately. Damien stood near the staircase wearing a black sweater and grey pants, looking unfairly beautiful for 7 in the morning. I swallowed hard. I figured you didn't want to see me. He walked toward me slowly. You figured correctly. Ouch. I looked down. I really am sorry. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then Damien sighed tiredly. You know what's frustrating? I looked up carefully. You're nothing like Samantha. My heart skipped. She's loud, impulsive, careless. A tiny smile touched his lips briefly. You notice people. You listen. You panic every time rich people hand you sparkling water. I accidentally laughed through my sadness. Damien shook his head softly. I started wondering why my fiancé suddenly became someone I actually enjoyed being around. The way he said it made my chest ache. I should go, I whispered. He nodded once. But his eyes stayed on mine the entire time I walked away. And somehow, that hurt even worse. The next 3 weeks felt miserable. I tried focusing on work again. Reality came crashing back fast. My landlord still wanted rent. My bakery still felt impossible. And every time I opened social media, Damien's face appeared somewhere. Business magazines. Interviews. Articles calling him the most eligible billionaire in New York. Meanwhile, I was crying while making cupcakes at 2 a.m. Pathetic. Then one Tuesday morning, everything changed. I received an email saying my bakery funding application had been approved. I nearly dropped my phone. Approved? That made no sense. I had already been rejected twice. I rushed to the bank immediately. There must be a mistake, I told the manager nervously. He smiled. No mistake, Miss Bennet. Your investor personally guaranteed everything. My stomach flipped. Investor? Yes. Though he requested anonymity. I already knew. Of course I knew. Only one person would do something like that without asking for credit. Damien. My chest tightened instantly. Because even after everything, he still helped me. That evening, I did something reckless. I went to Sinclair Holdings. The building itself looked intimidating enough to raise my blood pressure. Everything inside screamed money. The receptionist recognized me immediately, which honestly made me want to pass out. Before I could lose my nerve, Damien's assistant escorted me upstairs. And suddenly, I was standing inside Damien's office again. He looked up from his desk slowly. And God help me. My heart still reacted the same way. You invested in my bakery, I said immediately. Damien leaned back calmly. You needed funding. Why would you do that after what happened? His eyes stayed on mine. Because caring about you didn't magically disappear. That sentence hit me so hard I forgot how to breathe. I stepped closer slowly. You should hate me. I tried. And a faint smile appeared. It was exhausting. I laughed softly despite myself. For the first time in weeks, the tension between us shifted. Not gone, but softer, warmer. Damien stood and walked toward me carefully. You lied to me, he said quietly. I know. But when I think about those days. His gaze held mine completely. They were the happiest I've been in years. My eyes burned instantly. Damien. I don't care about Samantha anymore. My heartbeat sped up. I care about you. The room suddenly felt too small. Too warm. Too intense. You make absolutely no sense to me, he admitted softly. You're nervous around wealthy people but argue with me constantly. You hate attention but somehow become the center of every room anyway. I laughed through my tears. And somehow, he continued, stepping closer, I can't stop thinking about you. That was my breaking point. I kissed him first. And the second I did, Damien pulled me against him like he'd been waiting for it. The kiss felt desperate. Relieved. Real. Nothing fake anymore. When we finally pulled apart, both of us were breathing hard. You know, I whispered shakily, this is probably the worst professional business decision you've ever made. Damien smiled fully for the first time since meeting him. And honestly, that smile was dangerous. I'm a billionaire, he murmured. I can afford bad decisions. 1 year later, my bakery became one of the most popular cafes in Manhattan. People lined up around the block every morning. Food bloggers kept calling it the cozy bakery built from a modern love story, which was deeply embarrassing. Damien loved reminding me of it constantly. And somehow, he became completely different after we got together. Still intimidating in business meetings. Still ridiculously powerful. But with me, he laughed more, smiled more, lived more. The man who once terrified the internet now stood in our kitchen stealing strawberries while I baked at midnight. And honestly, that felt like the biggest plot twist of all. Then came the final surprise. Exactly 1 year after the fake engagement weekend, Damien recreated our first balcony conversation. Same city lights. Same music. Same nervous feeling in my chest. Except this time, he pulled out a ring. A real one. I think, he said softly, we both started this story pretending. I laughed through tears immediately. But you became the most real thing in my life. By then I was already crying. So, Olivia Bennet. He got down on one knee. Will you stop pretending to be my fiancée and actually become my wife? I said yes before he even finished asking. And this time, nothing about us was fake anymore. Don't forget to click on the like and subscribe button and leave a comment.